chance. So hi everyone, we're live again. So at this point, we'll just keep this slide deck rolling up until we hit the top of the hour. Okay, something happened that we didn't intend. So
she's open somewhere.
Okay, hold on. Okay, let's now try it again. There we go. So we'll just start in a couple of minutes at the top of the hour with the Adam's session.
You are muted.
I am right now.
You are muted. Now you're not.
Now I'm not. So we have another minute, and we are expecting all the audience to be ready to go with us. Okay, and I'll stop sharing my screen, and I will give chance to Adam to do his amazing presentation, Adam style. And I want to also thank him for being our MC for the whole event today. So if you have questions for Adam, please go for it. He is more than eager to answer the questions. So Adam,
yes.
Handing it over to you.
Perfect. So is my screen full? You see the slides?
You see the slides, and I'll maximize your screen. So both of our faces will go minimal style.
Yeah, my CPU is maxed out right now, and just because I showing you the slides, so it will be a little bit more quiet, I hope, if we start coding. So regarding EclipseCon, there are actually just two viable tracks, right? So we have web cloud development and cloud native. And what I check out, lots of the speakers are going to attend the EclipseCon conference as well. So it will be nice to see you again. So I will have a chat with Ejbs, for instance, for sure, regarding MicroProfile. Okay, now back to my session. A few slides. The most important slide is probably, let's say, this is just is this one. So in this show, I'm answering questions, usually MicroProfile and Jakarta EE questions. So if you are interested, join is completely free. And yeah, and this basically these were the slides, so almost no slides, so I can kill that. And now I would like to code a little bit. So this junk only means I will delete the folder afterwards. So this is no. So what I usually do is I would like to start a project, let's say, called the project Speakers. And what happened right now, I do it a lot. I could use, of course, the initializer from the web page or whatever, but I like to automate everything. And what you see here is just an archetype, a very easy one. And what the archetype does, it generates a project, and it is not on the top because I'm using MicroProfile 2.0, not 3, but this is just a number. And I would like to show you that. Hopefully it's in the right folder. So just go the junk. And it is. So, and the project basically comprises Java 8 and MicroProfile 2.0. I was a little bit late with that, so of course I will replace that with Jakarta EE. I will, even probably next week or a week after. Why not? It doesn't make any difference, and I won't have to change it later. But the point is, this is the setup for my projects. It's not like I created this for the conference. This is what I use all the time. And as you can probably see, I always use both. So let's say this is Jakarta EE and MicroProfile at the same time. And the reason is most of the runtimes support both. So I mean, OpenLiberty, Whitefly partially. So if you polyfill Whitefly with a small array, it also supports MicroProfile more or less fully. And Glassfish, of course, and Payara I use a lot, and Tommy also supports both. So, so this is for me, this Jakarta EE is more like a really stable operating system, and the MicroProfile are more like useful features which are released more often. So, so this combination works really, really well. So, okay, now we cover that, and what I would like to do is to use my own tool, and this tool is called what? SH. And this is the most simplistic or primitive tool you can probably build. The idea I got in a JavaScript workshop, where a JavaScript attendee asked me, do you have in Java something which watches the changes in source main Java and deploys that? And I say, no, but it is really easy to build. So what JS does is, this is, by the way, Payara server. So I use it a lot. And we also have OpenLiberty, and this is a new version, even newer what Kevin showed us. And the new version is OpenLiberty 1908. And what I usually use, I use everything. So if I use OpenLiberty, what I will use in a second, I use the full thing. So for me, there is no real reason to optimize, because if you download just that, it would behave like this, what I show you in a second. So there's actually no reason just to use MicroProfile or just web profile or whatever. So the runtimes are surprisingly small. And this is true for all runtimes. So Payara is probably the largest, but the largest means, it consumes about, I don't know, 60 megs idle. So it's not like it's a gigs of RAM. Okay, so now this is the OpenLiberty. And the tool I talked you about is the what. And what is just a jar where you can start and watches the changes. And I would like to use the what because you get the worst possible experience here. Why that? Because what it does is it watches the changes and then fires up maven clean install. So there are no tricks, no hot replacement or deployment or whatever. So I will just launch that. And what it does, it just builds my speakers project, and it deploys this to all servers I have. And this is Whitefly. This is OpenLiberty, this is, I think, Tommy, and this is Payara. As you can see, I have 4K was deployed to all the servers, and this 4K is 4K with Java EE or Jakarta EE and MicroProfile. Why that? Because in a MicroProfile or Jakarta EE project, all the dependencies we have are usually provided. And there are really successful projects which are doing exactly that. So they don't allow any external dependencies. And by the way, right now I perform a code review where they are depending on Jakarta Commons length just to have string util not blank, for instance. So in my eyes, it's not strictly necessary. The smaller the runtime, the faster deployment. And the faster deployment, the better the productivity. Okay, so now we have that. And what I would like to do is to start Liberty. So now start Liberty, and it starts the fresh Liberty. As you can see, this is the very fresh one. So I had lots of time as MC of this event, so I installed the OpenLiberty or WebSphere Liberty behind the scenes. As you can see, it uses MicroProfile 3.0, the new one, and all the dependencies behind. So the project, what is the project? So the project comprises a ping resource, which is simple. and superfluous comment. So like this. So, and as you probably should see right now, what already recognized the change and deploy the project in 2 seconds. So I can absolutely use what, just download a jar in Java manage jar and you get the same experience here. Okay, and the message is going to be injected from there, and it could be overridden if you're running on Kubernetes, for instance, by DC. This is the standard setup deployment config, and the ping resource itself is not scoped. So I could make it an Ejb or CDI bean right now, but it's even not necessary, and it just returns a ping string ping. So what we get from that is, hopefully, if it works, now a little bit nervous, is for the following. Localhost, and the port is 9080 because it's Open Liberty, so it started. And then we had speakers, resources is the default, and ping, and we have the MicroProfile ping, and this comes from that because we have a JAX-OS configuration, extends applications. We don't have to register any resources. They are automatically registered by all runtimes I know. And the entry URI is resources. Convention of a configuration means speakers, so there is no need for configuration. By the way, I have to say that. And speakers, so what it means is the URI comprises localhost, speakers, resources, ping. Okay, so far so good. So what we get from that? So first of all, this is configurable. So if I would change that, enjoy, it would change here. So and I don't use that that much, but I get lots of questions how to configure Jakarta EE or MicroProfile applications. So I included this in the profile. What we usually do, we expect OpenShift or Kubernetes to configure that, so we don't ship properties. Usually, they don't make a lot of sense to ship properties if you expect, for instance, how it's called, config maps to exist on your environment. Okay, now we have that. So what we could do, of course, I could add now another class and call the class a speaker, and the speaker is probably.
Hey Adam, any chance to increase your font a little bit?
Oh really?
Yeah.
Font 18. Better?
Yeah, I think we will all be happy.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So name, and it doesn't match, but let's say title of my presentation. It should be session, but you know we are agile, so just do that. So and what I could do, I could just return the speaker here. So if I do that, let's say new speaker, and there's no constructor because I forgot that. So I would like to create a convenience constructor, and with that, and the speaker has a name, and let's say Kevin, and the talk was dummies. Jakarta EE for dummies, like that. So it almost works. What I have to do is to tell the server, hey, what is it? And it's media type JSON. So now the server knows it's JSON. So what should happen right now? So if I do this, I get the JSON. So the raw data looks like JSON. And what I also get, which is more interesting, I get the endpoint from Open API. So what happens? There was so-called Swagger schema, or Swagger annotations are configured or generated for free. And this is a nice extension from Open Liberty. With that, I can even test that. So I can say, I would like to try it out, execute, and I will see this here. So this is a nice little feature. We use this particular at startups all the time because it's very productive. And by the way, of course, I can customize that. So I could say API response, and let's just do the description. And what I see in projects is, in real world, what someone will do is gets or returns a speaker, of course, right? This is the enterprise way of programming, and we will have today return a speaker. So now we are enterprise ready. So let's do that. And so what happens now is if I will, wait a second, do the open API thing, open API. So there should be some more description here, returns a speaker. So you can absolutely, add your schema references and tweak that with microprofile annotations. So for me, it's a big deal because sometimes we are forced to generate a Swagger API without obvious reasons, but some companies would like to have that. And the nice story with that is I don't need any external Swagger dependencies. So if you take a look on my wall, you see it is 4K. So it's still 4K. So there is no difference in size. Okay. So now, in the chat, I saw previously, how to get rid of Ejbs. So let's say I don't have Ejbs right now because I just configured OpenLiberty to just support MicroProfile 3 and I didn't activate the Java 8. So let's say in this particular environment, what I could do, I could, of course, rely on request scoped and transactional, which does not make a lot of sense here. But this would behave somehow like Ejb. This is JTA, and this is request scoped, and both are somehow similar to Ejbs without pooling. So pooling is still lacking, but we could introduce pooling with bulkheads, for instance, somehow behavior. So what I just would like to have is one single annotation in future, like a stereotype, which groups both. So I don't like to write transactional request code every time. I would like, the Jakarta EE or MicroProfile will ship a single convenient annotation as stateless is for me. So this would be the replacement of Ejbs. This is a little bit slower, not on Quarkus, but on all servers, because request scope will create the whole instance trees on every request, and stateless is pooled, so everything is injected just once. So, okay, so we have that. But, of course, what I would like to have is we need a conference or JakartaOne catalog, and the JakartaOne catalog will return just the speakers, and this is Kevin and Ira. So let's do that. And this ping resource injects the JakartaOne catalog, and here do this. Let's say here, Kevin, not Kevin, rather than this. This catalog dot speakers. So this could already work. Let's see. This was speakers resources ping, and Kevin Ivar, it already works. So, and our deployment is now 5K because we're a little bit of code, but as you can see, no problem at all. So now, why it works? The reason for that is what I usually do is I activate the dependency injection everywhere, so I don't have to use dependent annotations or default scope or whatever. It just works out of the box. And so far, it was fast enough. So there were no optimizations needed. So we have that. And what I could do right now is I could add, for instance, what I would not advise in real-world projects, like just add, for instance, the metered annotations just for fun. So, and this activates the metrics. And why I don't advise to do that? Because what I see in projects is, all methods are metered. So you get, millions of dashboards without any meaning. So what I would propose is rather have a view business-driven annotations, which say exactly what happens in the system and not just expose the performance of all methods. But let's say this is useful. Now, if I will switch here to my matrix, and then the most interesting application matrix. Oh, application. What's wrong with my matrix? Application. So does not work, but these are the metrics we saw before, and interesting. So the metrics are available with from accept application/JSON, that, and they are available as the Prometheus format, which is actually a bit standardized, and this is the usual format, the ASCII-driven format. But someone in the chat asked before, this is only Prometheus. What about the other monitors? The truth is, Prometheus does not matter a lot because there's open matrix specification. So what happens right now is the Prometheus output gets standardized and called open matrix. So in one point of time, all the other vendors are supposed to support the open matrix, the Prometheus format, and there will be even a protocol buffer-based protocol. So what we see right now is it was started by Prometheus, but will be available to all monitoring tools soon or even now. And the trick was, again, if you have the JSON style, with the JSON style, what you get is you will be able, with the JSON style, to very easily to access that from a web application and parse the JSON object because the JSON object is really easy to use. Okay, so we have the metered annotation, and we can of course say you are now request scope or not. So what you usually will do is, for instance, you could request scoped here, request scoped here, and this scope is going to be derived from the other one. So what I usually do is we have one boundary, and it starts transactions, and then it is responsible for serialization. So this is the JSON-B specification Eva mentioned earlier, and with that, we don't really need DTOs anymore. You can just create a Java class with public attributes, and they are exposed as JSON. And the JakartaOne catalog, this is where I would implement a true business logic, which accesses other services and does whatever you like. So, okay, so we have the metered annotations, string speakers, and what we could do right now is, for instance, another trick is I could just throw an exception just for fun. So throw new illegal state exception, or connection problems exception, more and more exciting. Connection problems exception, power outage. What I really had today morning, so there was no power. So create class, so I will create the extends exception, let's say extends runtime exception, and this is the message, and this would be super no power or message. So this is what we need to do. Okay, now this is now thrown. This can be commented out. So if I try it again and do the thing with speakers, resources, and ping, I see nothing, and I should actually see. I should actually see 500, and I see the 500, and you see connection problem, power outage. So Open Liberty is nice. The recent PIR is also nice, but our older service will show you here, stack trace from hell. So everything they can show you, the whole stack trace, which is not really nice. So what I see in projects is in Jakarta or Java EE projects is they invent exceptions first, and they catch the exceptions here, which is actually too much. It actually just blurs the beautiful code, Jakarta code. So what you can do very easily is just use a feature from Java EE now MicroProfile, and I could just use web application exception instead. And here I can say response status status, let's say 400 header and info message, and I think build. So looks good. So now what I created now, a self-mapped exception which serializes itself into 400 with additional info. Is your decision if you need the header or not, and let's see what happens. So if I repeat that, I should see, perfect. So I see 400 info power outage. I could even tell I don't like 400. Why not just 200? This is dangerous, but could be fun. So where is it? I have to save it. So saving is very important, even in Jakarta world. So still doesn't work. Oh, 200. So now we generated status 200. It was just for you, with an exception, which is not usual. So, but what you can also do, I could say, okay, this is nice, but let's do that. And what I could do, I could say retry, and I would like to retry 2 times. 3 is default and 3 times. And now there's a different specification. This is no more MicroProfile matrix rather than fault tolerance and retry. So it will just retry twice and then fail. So if I will do that, then you will see here, hopefully somewhere, the dots. So these are the dots because it tried to retry. So, and now I can say string speaker with power, and a speaker with power is hopefully James G, so secret person. And I can say here fallback, and the fallback is fallback method is going to be speaker with power. And I hope no typo. So no, speaker with power. So now if I repeat that, I get James after 2 retries, and I still see 200, but now without exception. So it retried for me twice. And the nice thing is, wait a second, I already deployed during the session 22 times with standard, the largest possible open liberty. And my thin word still 6K. By the way, the fan you hear is from a different machine. I just use one machine for screen sharing, and then my other machine is pretty quiet. So I show you something incredible the first time. Now I think the internet should break. So this is the another notebook. So now, cool. So so what it basically means, most of my microservices are tiny, and I performed already a few interviews with projects wanted, you know, to reveal the truth. And the microservices were way below 1 meg. Why it's important? If you push that to the cloud or to private cloud, the smaller the war, the faster deployment. Also, Java EE was stable for years, and I hope after Java X stabilization, Jakarta EE will also stable. So what it means is, if you don't have to rely on external dependencies, like for instance histories, then you don't have to migrate. You're not forced to migrate your project just because an external dependency broke. And this is actually a very usual case in my projects where a forgotten dependency causes some problem. Okay, so now we have that. So what we did so far, so we implemented a JakartaOne service with a open API so far. And what's about health checks? So I don't use health checks a lot, but what I would like to do is to show you the newer health checks. Hopefully they will work. For this purpose, I will have to switch to 3.0. Wait a second. Yes, never try that. So let's see whether it actually works. And now I can say I would like to have readiness probe. So there are readiness probe, and it will extend the health check, I hope. Health check, now implements, wait a second, implements. Health check, this is one of the view specifications I don't use a lot, and why, I tell you in a second. And this could be application scoped, and this is readiness. Perfect. And what I would like to do is to say return health check response. I think I can do the names exactly. Speaker is ready, and then build, done. I hope it's enough. So now what happens now is if I switch to here and do the health and health readiness. Oh, implements health check. Should work, but it doesn't. There could be an error. The problem with that, why I'm not using this a lot, is the following. If you think about that, so if I just return here health ready, I think no. So if I do the health and this is the health from the application server first. So if you deploy unnamed health check, what happens then is probably, let's see, speaker. No. The problem is if you have to set up Kubernetes readiness probes, you would like to differentiate between the application server is going to be ready or your application is going to be ready. So what we usually do is we expose our own readiness and liveness probes. It's just like a resource with 2 methods, and then you can use it directly from Kubernetes. So this is I never tried it before, so of course it has failed. But what's new? We have readiness and liveness probe, and both can be used at the same time to add a new probes to a JSON object, basically. So okay, I hope the application server still or the application is still running. So let's do speakers again. Speakers, resources, ping, resources, and ping. So now it still works, just the health checks do not work properly. So now, what about full service? So what I can do is, first, I can just reinstall, just for fun, Payara. And what it does is, this is a small script, and what it does is it just unzips and deletes a Payara and creates a new one. So before a project, I do it sometimes, so just do that. So now the largest possible Payara is installed, and then I can say start Payara, and I'm not sure whether it supports Java 11 or not yet, so I'll start Payara. And it will start and is already set up so that the WAD will deploy the application to both at the same time. So what means right now is if I switch to WAD and do it again, 27 deployments, then I could use Payara because Payara uses another port, 8080, and this is now response from Payara. So this was 9080 was Open Liberty, and this is Payara, and we should get similar output. So we can use OpenAPI. And I'm just curious about the health. So OpenAPI, 8080, let's do the matrix. So the matrix, you see, you get the same output, and with application. And this is the application matrix I wanted to show you earlier. So you see the Jakarta e-catalog speakers was invoked once. And you see also what's really nice is that the fallbacks are exposed as metrics as well. So you see how often retries happen, which is really useful. So all the MicroProfile specs are integrated, so you don't have to register metrics to or fault tolerance to metrics. So with that, and now what also curious is about the health. So health, and it's up. So this is the health check, and this is the generic one, not the specific one. And this is what I meant. So now the server says I'm ready, but I think so. There are no readiness. Readiness.
Hey Adam, there is a question here. Why did you delete and reinstall Payara? What are you trying to demo with that?
Oh, but this is just a straight Payara. So there are there are no plugins, nothing, and the script is not for presentations. What I do it before my projects. And why is sometimes there could be a dirty cache or whatever, and I know some forgotten dependencies, JDBC drivers. So what I usually do is I reinstall all my servers before my project or before my proof of concept, and sometimes before the talks even. So I just had the script here, so I just demonstrated that. So there's nothing specific with it. And why I showed you this right now? To show you how easy it is to install a server. So what you only have to do is, all servers I know, you have just to unzip them. So you just unzip, and after a few seconds, you have the whole runtime. And it's actually a very good question. So for me, what's really important is, time to hello world, or time to first commit. So the shorter it is, or the shorter the time to be productive, the more acceptance you get in projects. And what's funny is, I'm in some projects, young projects, where the developers never had the chance, to learn about the old J2E with deployment descriptors and Xdocklets and so forth. And if I show them this, they are really delighted. They say, this is great productive technology. What's the name of it? And I say, okay, we call it Java EE. I say, okay, cool, perfect. So this is why I did it. But you can just do this because immutable infrastructure. You should be able to destroy your environment and set it up again. And as a best practice in projects, what I don't like, if it takes a lot of effort to set up the environment, set up, whatever, it should be automated. So this is the point. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, since we are starting with the questions, there is a question if you are going to share the examples post-session.
Yeah, I can for sure, but they are not really valuable, but I can, yeah, of course, I can.
Okay. And then there is also, people are asking if you can do some comparison between Thorntail or Open Liberty, or your opinion on other implementations. So maybe at the end of the session, or at some point, you can give your input, if you will.
Yes, so I do it right now because these are great questions. I have to say, all the application servers are great. So I would say Tommy and Open Liberty are the smallest. Payara Whitefly, I mean, you see right now, I'm just deploying right now on Payara and Open Liberty at the same time, and the deployments are usually in a few seconds. So the question is not what to choose. The question is what my clients already have. If you have if it's a Red Hat company, just go with Whitefly. If the company used Glassfish before, I will rather suggest Payara. Some companies were forced to go with Tomcat, then Tommy is the perfect choice. So I would be actually fairly open which runtime to choose. Thorntail, I think, is an end of life, so I wouldn't use Thorntail or Whitefly Swarm in modern projects, and the reason being is because of Quarkus. And I wanted actually to show Quarkus, but I won't do this because a session after me will show you Quarkus. So I use Quarkus a lot. So Quarkus is the successor of Thorntail. I prefer to use the stock application servers, and the reason is how to call it, Stack Overflow factor. The more general environment you are using, the higher is the chance that on error you will find a solution on Stack Overflow. But the more unique Snowflake project you are, the lesser the chance that you will find a solution to your problem. Cool. Any other questions? Tanya, everyone is happy?
Everyone's happy. Thank you, Adam.
Okay, so if we have a few minutes left. So what I saw in or if the have suggestions, just suggest me. But about testing. So what I do in projects is actually trivial. So I will just explain you. Wait for a question rather. There is a JakartaOne client, and I use the client for testing. And if there are no questions, I will show you what I mean by that. So I would use the speakers ST, and with the speakers ST, this is now with 1.8. Still, most of my clients are using 1.8, and JakartaOne step. So I would use the this is standard dependency from Glassfish or from Payara. And why I need that is because I'm using now. I'm going to create a system test which accesses the microservice from outside. And what I would like to do is to create a JUnit class. And for that, I need a dependency and the dependency is JUnit, and I would like to use the old one, so JUnit, not the, exactly the 4. Let's do the 4. So this is good enough, and then I can just create new JUnit test, and let's call it speakers resource IT, and this was in EE JakartaOne. This is a nice package. So we have that. And now what I could do, I can say now init and before and client build a new client. And this is my target. And the target was, let's do the glassfish, localhost 8080, speakers, resources, and ping. It should be, of course, speakers, but I was too lazy to rename that. This target under test, and this is the web target. So now in a single test, and the test is CRUD. Let's call it CRUD for first, and test. So and now I can say this request, and the request needs media type JSON, and I would like to have a JSON object. This is good because JSON object is for different specification already introduced by EVAR, and this is JSON-P. So this is what was it? Speaker, I hope. So and now of course in unit test there should be no asserts, otherwise they could break. So what we can do is, this was of course a joke. So this, and now with a little bit of luck, and I would like to switch to Java 8 because I think there's some trouble with JDK 11. So and just run it. So if I run the test and with a little bit of luck, it works. So this was my test, name James G, title Jakarta EE for Dummies. So this was my test. And because we are a Jakarta show, so what we can do now, I can show you not enterprise Java beans rather than enterprise Jakarta beans. So what we can do for sure now, I can say instead of request scope, I will use stateless. And this should work because now we are using Ejbs specification, which is another part of MicroProfile. And so just rerun the test to save time. So rerun the test. And it still works now with Ejbs. So now we have one typical Ejbs specification. Everything else is MicroProfile, or you can argue JaxOS exists in both, in MicroProfile and Jakarta EE. And where is my what? As you can see, the thin war is still 6K. So there was no difference in size, which is really good. And the deployment is fairly fast. So where is the deployment? So it was, it is like 200 milliseconds or something. Yeah. So any questions, Tanya? So we even have system tests. So now, why it is so valuable to have that? Because with that, what you can do, I could do the following. I would like to set up Java EE project, attendees, and this project, by the way, I was already busy as an MC GitHub during Kevin Sutter's presentation.
There are no questions. There are more questions.
Yeah. What happened was during the presentation, I set up already a repository for Jakarta EE Essentials archetype. So the next session, hopefully, it was 3 hours ago, I will use the new Jakarta EE archetype instead of the Java EE 8.1. So the Kevin and his team were too fast the last night, or I don't know when they shipped Jakarta EE. So now we can have a Jakarta EE archetype. So this will come soon. So okay, go with the questions. What's the question?
Okay. So let me read you the questions. So hold on. Why the application server size doesn't matter to you? Is the idea applicable to applications deployed on the cloud in terms of cost?
Particularly applicable for the clouds. What I didn't show you right now is, oh, my Docker is running. Okay, so it's the following. what I usually do, I deploy with Docker. And as you can see, there's Ajax Glassfish, and let's go with Ajax Whitefly. So now what I can do now is I'm in the speakers project, yes. So I can go here, go to speakers, cd speakers, and do maven clean install, docker build -t, and the name, let's see, Jakarta speakers dot. And what happens right now, it built the microservice with the entire Whitefly. So this is the cloud experience you get if you use the full application service. And if I go to Docker history, Jakarta/speakers, you will see the reason is because of immutable layering in Docker. What you can see is 20 seconds ago, I created a cloud-ready Docker image, container image, which is 6K, and everything else is half-year old or 3 years old even, because the first layer is the Red Hat operating system, and the other layers are the Java and probably Whitefly 6 months ago, the recent Whitefly. And what we do in the clouds, we push these layers, every 3 months. And daily, we just have to push 6K. And it means we have to push, it happens automatically behind the scenes. So if I would say Docker push, it would just push 6K, not everything, not 500 megs or whatever it is. And with Quarkus, a similar idea. With Quarkus is like a super jar, but if you look inside the jar refers to already existing libraries. And for me, the separation between the business logic and infrastructure is crucial for cloud native. And all recent application servers are doing this, as well as even the Uber jars MicroProfile. For instance, the Whitefly Swarm did so-called hollow jar approach, and Pyara Micro as well. They both supported hollow jar. What it means is the jar from the application servers and my war or jars, they are separated. Cool, great question. We could even try to run it, -d. Other question?
Yep, let's go for the other questions. So what is your opinion on what should be done with Jakarta EE in the future? What is the good roadmap for you?
If I would have the absolute power, I would try to prune as much as possible. So all specifications, or create, a full profile with everything included, and then let's say the mainstream profile, whatever you call it, with pruned everything, because the less specs you have to look at, the easier it is to learn. So I will try to drastically simplify everything if possible. Then, if you ask my personal opinion, I'm for the big bang migration. So we have a clear-cut Jakarta EE, new. It has nothing to do with J2E. Just go straight. I know it could be painful, but I mean, if I had the power and the time to do it. What I really like is the separation right now between the Jakarta EE and MicroProfile. Not separation, but there are two distinct projects, because there are two distinct release cycles. We get MicroProfile 4 times a year, which is really exciting. And I would expect Jakarta EE to move a little bit slower. I wouldn't expect, to ship 4 releases of Jakarta EE a year. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on with other questions. What is the current state of Quarkus? Is it production ready? Does it support all the features that Open Liberty or some other MP MicroProfile implementations do?
Quarkus cannot be, and I think never will be, MicroProfile fully compliant, and the reason is because Quarkus is built for optimizations, and Quarkus is not very good with reflection. Having said that, we already successfully ported some Java EE and MicroProfile projects to Quarkus without any major issues. So Quarkus is a little bit different because it aims to compilation to a native library, which is tiny. So with Quarkus, you can compile, the MicroProfile into 8 meg Go-like library. So it's and recently in a project we actually used even Quarkus as a web server. So we shipped one binary Quarkus jar. It was a binary file, which contained the static files, for instance. So and is it production ready? I would say I'm not Red Hat, but from my observations is the hotspot version, yes, and the Graal VM version I would test a little bit more because it's very new.
Okay, so there is a need for clarification. When you say Wildfly, do you mean Torntail?
No, Wildfly, I mean, what I use here is the Wildfly full. I always use the largest available servers. So Wildfly 70 full, Payara full, OpenLiberty, I use the largest available OpenLiberty. So what I downloaded is today is, no, IO, I think. What I downloaded is all J features. So this is the version you see right now. So I never used Micro or Swarm, and yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
There is also a question, and I think you already touched on it. What do you think about Torntail comparing to other implementations?
Torntail is end of life. So
okay.
No Torntail.
Would you recommend migrating the business logic from Ejbs to CDI?
No, because I would only recommend that if Ejb is duplicated or will die. Right now, it's fine. And on common application servers, right now, Ejbs are faster than CDI even, except Quarkus because Quarkus generates lots of bytecode at build time, and application servers are working with reflection. And if you really have to migrate that, it will be fairly easy. So you will have to replace it stateless with a request scoped and transactional or your own stereotype. So it's not a big deal.
If I have a default MicroProfile config file with my local configuration, and then for my different environments set up the variables, will the environment variable override the file values?
Exactly. This is the beauty of MicroProfile config. So what we really do is the following. So I have the MicroProfile config here, and this is going to be overridden by environment entries. So it means system get env, so the operating system environment variables. And you can override that with system properties. So we use for testing, for instance, so we can override the environment entries with system properties because it's easier to test.
Okay, I'll keep going.
What I would like to do is to create here a class called speaker accessor. And the speaker accessor is basically my test. And this is the whole thing, the reason why I write system tests with JakartaOne clients. So if I do this, and before, there's no before in, but we have post construct. And this is not necessary at all. So we can say this returns a JSON object, and this returns the speaker. So then in ping resource, what I could do, I can just inject the speaker accessor. This is not needed. And then say accessor.routes, exactly. And toString, and plus just from another service. So I know with a little bit of luck, it could work. So I would just launch what here, and this should deploy the application to all servers as well. So if I go now to localhost 8080, attendees, resources, and ping. Attendees looks good, but it doesn't work. So wait a second, attendees. resources ping and 9080. So something wrong with ping resource. The ping resource, this looks good. So we have speakers, resources, ping. This worked, so we can just try that again. So this works, so this is good. We have attendees, resources, ping, get, string ping, accessor to string from another service. Interesting. So have to work and should work. And I will just do it request scoped. It's not necessary, but it will reinitialize itself. And so this doesn't. And 8080 also does not. With a PT, both servers. So I did actually. So this speakers. It should work, it will work, but it doesn't. So this is the funny speakers what? Wait a second. No one tells me that. I'm in the wrong folder. So I have to start it here. So now it should be better. Now it works. So no one told me this. I just tried to ship, or I forgot to deploy the service. In Jakarta EE and MicroProfile, it's very important that you never forget to deploy the services. But what you see right now, the service attendees communicate to the service speakers. And what I was able to do by copy and paste, reuse the entire unit test or system test, and on a CI/CD pipeline, this is what happens usually. We have a dedicated module which accesses the microservice from outside. Exactly. And to make it a little bit more useful, what I could do right now, I could actually say, I would like to inject, I think this registry type and application and metric registry, hopefully, yes, registry. So what I could do right now is just rewrite it a bit. So let's do this. I can just delete that. And what I would like to do is to show you a business metric. And now I would say read entity and JSON object. So just rewrite it a bit. And then say registry, counter, and the name is speakers _ plus speaker get status. You see where I'm going with that int. So, and with a little bit of luck, so let's do this. And now watch that. So I go here and do matrix / application. And what you can see is that I created a counter on the fly where I had 200 3 times. So what it does is it creates counters on the fly with all my HTTP status codes and the number of invocations. So this is actually a very useful technique to create dynamic metrics. And this is far more useful than just put metered on it and hope that someone is interested to know how fast the method was. And by the way, this method could be annotated with bulkheads and what Eva showed earlier with bulkheads or the other annotations, timeout and so forth. Any other questions? What I will do, I will push the code to Ejbs. So this is github.com /bean Ejbs. Bean and Ejbs should be empty, and if it isn't, it will be empty in a second, and I will push the code here. Okay. So thank you and enjoy Jakarta EE together with MicroProfile.
Okay, so we're just a few minutes short of the next session, and I will thank you all for the questions. For the questions that weren't answered, we will get to them a little bit later. Adam, thank you so very much, and thank you for emceeing the whole event. So everyone, you will have the opportunity to ask questions to Adam throughout the day. And at this point, I will ask you to move on to the next session.
Yes.
See you
So
there.
I can introduce the speaker, right?
Yeah. Bye.